bus.
Right.
So Laszlo is a Hungarian village, St. Laszlo. So we had here, before the war, Serbs, Croatian people, Hungarian people. We had here primary school. All children go to the same school together.
Yeah.
As I said, we never had any problems with the Serbs. We were friends and neighbors. This is a small community. We have about 1,000 people here in this village. So, one day Serbians didn't send their children in the primary school. I was at the first grade. 2 days after that, Serbians, they occupied this village with the tanks. They sent us soldiers in the primary school to say children that we have 3 hours to go home, that we will have buses in front of the school, and all the people and children, they have to go that same day out from this village if we were going to survive. Children like children, for me it was first time that I saw soldier in front of me with the guns, and we were dancing and smiling, and I will never forget their faces, they were very angry, they didn't smile to us. I know, in 1991 you didn't have cell phones, internet connections, so my mother and father was working. Me and my brother, we go at our grandmother's house, who was taking care of us in that time. We go with that buses out from this village. We go in Hungary, in one town called Szigetvar. The whole Serbian army, they told us, what can you bring in your 2 hands from the house? You can drink, everything else have to stay. So what can you put in your 2 bags? Nothing. So, you had people who didn't want to leave little pets, like cats or dogs, so they put in their purse to go in the bus, and 2 soldiers was in front of the bus, and if you had some jewelry, something, watch, you had to put behind the bus, so you couldn't go with that in the bus. If they saw, that little animals, they put in front of the bus, and they shoot in front of the children and people, I think it was like 1,000 people in one bus, when one child is crying, screaming, the rest of them is screaming and crying, and it was terrible. You had people who didn't believe that war is coming, they didn't want to leave the place, this is village, everybody has some kind of animals, pigs, chickens, ducks, cows, horses, so they didn't believe that war is coming, they didn't want to leave the property. People who stayed here in 1991, they didn't survive, they killed by Serbian army. My father joined Croatian army in that time, he wasn't with us. Our grandmother was taking care of all that years that we were refugees. We wasn't here from 1991 till 1999. 8 years we wasn't here.
And he was here? Your grandmother?
She was with us, and we were in Hungary. My father joined Croatian army, he wasn't with us, and my mother, in that time, she was working in Osijek, in town. Osijek, it's 20 kilometers from Laszlo. In Osijek you were, or you will go. Where is your ship? Vukovar?
We went through there already.
That's where we came from,
so your ship is in Vukovar?
Yeah.
Okay, Vukovar was 100% completely destroyed town.
Yeah.
From Vukovar, Serbians army, they separate everywhere, Osijek is town, it's bigger than Vukovar. Osijek was protected that time by Croatian army. So people who were staying in Osijek, it wasn't life in that time, because you never know when they will bomb Osijek, And I know, like you have 7 days, 4 days they bombed Osijek, 3 days was quiet, and they told people, when you hear sirens in the air, if you are somewhere in the town, that you have to go in first empty shelter to protect your life, you know. So it wasn't safe, but people didn't want to leave Osijek in that time. It seems situation like now in Ukraine. We have people who don't want to go out, and they bomb, and they don't have electricity, they food and water, you know. So I always say that people who stayed in Osijek, they did protect that Osijek, you know, and Croatian army. So Osijek wasn't taken by Serbians army,
Right.
like Vukovar. Vukovar was completely.
And this one, and this village.
And this village, yes. So, you know, as I said, we had Serbs who was living here. When they left their houses, they mark outside facade that they knew that Serbian was living here. So they didn't fire that house, you know. In that 8 years that we wasn't here, Serbians was taking all good stuff from the house and go to the Serbia. We are very close to the Serbia, you know, Slavonia, this part of Croatia is very close. We have border to Serbia. So what they couldn't bring with themselves, they fired inside the house, so completely destroyed. They even bring up electricity from the walls, completely destroyed the house. I will show you after lunch the picture of this house. So we start again when we came back. I was primary school when I came back. I was high school, I was teenager, you know. So
Now, are there still Serbians in this town?
okay, that Serbians who was
Living
in
here.
Serbian army, they didn't came back. But you have lots of young people, you know,
Right.
my generation,
Right.
older people, I mean third generation people who don't want to live in Serbia, you know,
Right.
they came back after war period and they want to live here in Croatia, you know.
Right.
Young families with the children who born many years after that war period, they are living here in last war here in Croatia because they have better life here than in Serbia, you
Right.
know. So we have, you know, Serbs who came back, you know. First 2 or 3 years was very difficult. You have to understand when we came back, you know, it was a lot of fighting between Serbian children and Croatian children, you know.
Is it calmed down now? So,
Yeah, it's much better, you know, than
and people get along now?
yes, it's better than you still have, you know, you have to understand. Lots of people, we still have 56 people that they're still missing. We say missing people because they didn't find the bones, you know. Serbian army don't want to tell when they made that big massive graves, you
Right.
know. You have different opinions from different people. You have to understand. Like my father, who was in army, in Croatian army, today he has that, lots of men have that post-traumatic syndrome,
PTSD.
PTSD, yes. So they don't like Serbians.
No.
My children I have Gabriel, he is 9 years old, and Laura, she is 12 years old. They are going into primary school. They have Serbians friends. They have. It's normal that children born many years after war period. You have to understand. I don't hate Serbians. I don't hate. You cannot live all your life with your hateness in the heart. It's not normal for you, like people, for my children. But I will never forgive them what they do to us. You have to understand that we lost everything. I was child, I was 7, my mother wasn't with us, my father wasn't with us. For many months we didn't know is he's alive or dead, you know. My grandmother was taking care of me and my brother when we go in Hungary. You know, the problem was, one day you are here, second day we was out from this village, out from this country, with 2 bags in the hands. Everything that we had stayed here. We lost everything. I know when we go in Hungary, in that Szigetvar, you know, they couldn't explain to me why we are alone, why we are not at home, what is war. I didn't understand, you know. So I didn't want to eat, I didn't want to drink. I finished in hospital. It was very stressful for everybody, especially for the children, you know. You know, when you're 7, you need your mother, you know. And I was without her, you know. She was working in Osijek in that time. When we came back from Hungary, we were settled in Čakovec, where war wasn't at that point, you know. So she was visiting us like once or twice a month.
Yeah, lovely.
Oh, very good.
Very nice, yeah.
I talk about war and everything.
Okay, can you make one picture with?
Aha,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
picture with you.
Oh.